Hi, today we're going to calculate the polynomial division of 2x squared minus 9x minus 5 divided by x minus 5. I really enjoy polynomial division. It's really strange for a lot of students when they first encounter them, so it may be a little bit off-putting to you, and I hope this video kind of helps you get used to it and become a little bit more accustomed to it, and maybe even like it by the end. Polynomial division is very similar to long division that we learn in elementary school, which is why it's fun. It's just ramped up a little bit more. So let's go back and remember what we did with long division because it's probably been a long time for most people. We're just going to go down and look at our division algorithm that we learned when we were little kids. We have a divisor that goes on the outside. We have our half box here, our dividend under the half box, our quotient that we end up with, and our remainder at the end. So in this case, let's try and do a quick example before we do anything else, just to kind of get ourselves used to, let's see, let's do 57 and, oh, let's do 2. This will be nice. We'll take the dividend 57 and our divisor is 2. So if you remember from elementary school, when we're doing our long division, we take our number on the outside, our divisor, and we see how many times it goes into the first number. So we only look at the first number. And this is going to be key when we get to polynomials. We're going to break up the big polynomial and we're going to look at it in chunks. So let's look at the first chunk here. 2 goes into 5 twice. And that gives us 2 times 2, which is 4. We subtract that, and we get 1. We bring down our 7. I'm going to do a little dotted line. A lot of times, once you get used to it, you just stop doing that. But I'm going to put the dotted line there anyway, just for visual effect. 2 goes into 17 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. We subtract the 2, we get a 1. 2 does not go into 1 at all, so we have a remainder of 1. And a lot of times you'll see an R at top when you do this. If we wanted to rewrite it in the form that we usually have at the end, this long equation, we can do that. This would give us 57 is equal to 2 times 28 plus 1. And there's our division algorithm. So we're going to use the same algorithm, only we're going to do it with polynomials, right? So let's start off with figuring out what goes where. Whew. Okay, so let's start with our half box, right? Usually, and this is pretty much almost always, no matter what you're looking at this level, the bigger thing goes under the half box and the smaller thing goes outside of the half box. That's the thing to remember. So we're going to put our 2x squared minus 9x minus 5 under our half box. And technically that's supposed to be, it's always our first item when we're dividing. But again, I find it easier to just remember the big thing goes under and the small thing, the x minus 5, goes on the outside. Now, this definitely looks way more complicated than the little problem that we just did, but we're going to simplify it quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to ignore the minus 5. We're just going to look at the x, and we're just going to look at our first term. So remember how in the long division, we only looked at the first number? We're going to do the same thing here. So let's start off with, we have x, and we have 2x squared. And let's put this off. I'm going to do this on the side. We want to know, what do we multiply x by to get 2x squared? That's going to tell us what we put on top, right? That's going to give us our solution for up here. Okay, so in other words, and I'm going to rewrite this, our 2x squared becomes 2 times x, and you'll notice if you pull off an x, what's left over is 2x. So we're going to put that 2x up top, right? 2x times x gives us 2x squared. So now we're going to do is we're going to do our multiplication. Remember when we were down in the long division that we're used to, we take the number in our quotient, you times it by our divisor, and we get the number that we put underneath that we subtract. In this case, our 2x, we're going to multiply it by 5, but we're also going to multiply it by that, or by x, but we're also going to multiply it by that -5. So we have to multiply the entire thing. So we want 2x times x minus 5. So if we multiply that out, and I'm just going to do that on the side, that is going to give us 2x squared minus 10x. All right, so that's the thing that we put underneath. And we're going to do our subtraction here. Now, this is the part that gets a lot of students stumped or a little bit off, is that when we are subtracting, we are subtracting that whole polynomial that we just put in there, that whole 2x squared minus 10x, which means that negative sign has to distribute, right? So we're going to have 2x squared minus 2x squared, so that's going to give us 0. And then we have our minus 9x minus a negative 10x squared. Double negatives, which means you add. So it's minus 10x plus 10x, which gives us a positive x. And now, whew, that is the hardest part. The next thing that we can do is drop our next number. And notice that gives us an x minus 5. We do the same thing here. How many times does x, what do we multiply by x to get our first number? So remember, we're just looking right up here. We just looked at our first term. We're doing the same thing here. We kind of want to get rid of the x's is the point. And all we do is we multiply by 1. So 1 times x is x. 1 times a -5 is a -5. We are subtracting that whole thing. X minus x is 0, minus 5, minus a -5. So that's double negative. So we're adding 5, gives us 0. So that gives us 0 at the end. All of that kind of dies out. And if we rewrite this in that equation form, we have our 2x squared minus 9x minus 5 on the outside, our divisor, and our quotient. And notice this one has no remainder. So here is our nice little solution to our polynomial division. Now, this is only one way to divide out polynomials. There's a second way called synthetic division. And if you want to see an example of that, hit subscribe so that you don't miss out on another video on synthetic division. Thanks for listening.